Kim Tae-ho pressed his face against the small window of the transport ship. The Galactic Council station grew larger as they approached. It was bigger than anything he had ever seen. The station looked like a giant metal flower floating in space. Hundreds of ships from different worlds moved around it like busy insects. "First time seeing the station?" asked Park So-min. She was sitting across from him in her clean, diplomatic uniform. So-min had been to the station many times before. She was leading this mission to get humans accepted into the Galactic Alliance. "Yes, ma'am," Tae-ho replied. He was only 19 years old. Even among humans, he was small and thin. His uniform was too big for his frame. "It's much bigger than I thought," So-min smiled. "Wait until you see the aliens inside. They're much bigger than you thought, too." The transport ship docked at the station. Tae-ho felt his stomach turn as artificial gravity kicked in. He grabbed his small bag and followed So-min through the airlock. The moment they stepped inside the station, Tae-ho's mouth fell open. The main hall was enormous. The ceiling stretched up so high he could not see the top. Aliens of all shapes and sizes walked around doing their business. Some looked like giant lizards walking on two legs. Others looked like living crystals that sparkled as they moved. There were creatures with too many arms, and others with no arms at all. But what struck Tae-ho most was how big everything was. The doorways were built for beings much taller than humans. The chairs and tables were sized for giants. Even the smallest aliens Tae-ho could see were at least a foot taller than him. "Stay close," So-min whispered. "And remember what we practiced. Stand straight. Make eye contact. Show no fear." They walked through the hall toward the registration area. Alien heads turned to look at them. Tae-ho heard whispers in languages he did not understand. Some aliens pointed at them. A few made sounds that might have been laughter. At the registration desk, a creature that looked like a walking tree trunk looked down at them. Its voice was deep and slow. "Species?" it asked. "Human," So-min replied. "From the planet Earth. We're here for the integration program." The creature typed something into its computer with fingers as thick as Tae-ho's arms. "Humans? Yes. We have been expecting you. Though we expected you to be bigger." More alien laughter came from behind them. Tae-ho felt his cheeks burn red, but kept his face forward. They were given room assignments and directions to the orientation hall. As they walked, Tae-ho noticed how the other species moved. The reptilian aliens moved with smooth confidence. Their scales caught the light as they glided through the halls. The crystal beings seemed to float rather than walk. Even the smaller aliens carried themselves with obvious strength and grace. Humans looked clumsy by comparison. The orientation hall was packed with new arrivals from dozens of worlds. Tae-ho and So-min found seats in the back. The chairs were too big for them. Tae-ho's feet barely touched the floor. A massive reptilian alien walked onto the stage. He was at least 8 feet tall with dark green scales and yellow eyes. His voice boomed across the hall without needing amplification. "Welcome, new species, to the Galactic Council Station. I am Vextar, Director of Integration. Over the next few weeks, you will prove whether your species deserves a place in our alliance." Vextar's eyes swept across the crowd and stopped on the human section. "Some of you come from worlds where you were apex predators. Others come from harsh environments that forged you into warriors. And some—" He paused and looked directly at Tae-ho. "Some come from soft worlds and soft lives." Alien laughter filled the hall. Tae-ho sank lower in his oversized chair. "The tests begin tomorrow," Vextar continued. "We will measure your strength, your speed, your intelligence, and your courage. Those who pass will join the alliance. Those who fail will return to their home worlds and wait another century before they can try again." After the orientation, So-min led Tae-ho to the cafeteria. The food service was automated but designed for alien physiology. Everything was too big, too spicy, or too strange for human taste. Tejo managed to find something that looked like bread and some kind of soup. They sat at a table meant for beings twice their size. Around them, aliens from different worlds shared stories and compared their abilities. A group of insect-like creatures talked about how they could lift 50 times their own body weight. Crystal beings discussed how they could survive in the vacuum of space. The reptilian aliens boasted about their natural weapons and armor. "What do humans do that's special?" asked a voice behind them. Tejo turned to see a young alien that looked somewhat like a cat but with 6 arms. She seemed genuinely curious rather than mocking. "Well," Somin began carefully, "humans are very adaptable. We can live in many different environments. We're good at solving problems and working together." "But what about fighting?" asked one of the reptilian aliens who had walked over. "What about hunting? What about survival?" "Humans have survived ice ages," Tejo said quietly. "We've spread across our entire planet. We've lived in deserts, in frozen lands, on islands, in mountains." The reptilian alien made a sound like a snort. "Survival is not the same as being strong. A bug survives. A weed survives. That doesn't make them warriors." More aliens had gathered around their table now. Tejo felt like an animal in a zoo. "Show us your claws," demanded an insect-like alien. Tejo held up his hands. His fingernails looked pathetic compared to the razor-sharp claws around him. "Show us your armor," said another. Tejo touched his thin uniform. He had no natural armor. At all. "Show us your strength," challenged the reptilian. Tejo looked at his thin arms. He could not even do 20 push-ups in a row. The aliens laughed and walked away. Tejo heard them talking as they left. Soft creatures from a soft world. How did they even survive long enough to develop space travel? "This will be entertaining. I give them 2 days before they quit." "I say 1 day." Somin put her hand on Tejo's shoulder. "Don't listen to them." But Tejo was listening, and part of him wondered if they were right. What could humans offer to an alliance of strong, fast, armored species? What made humans special at all? That night, Tejo lay in his oversized bed in his oversized room and stared at the ceiling. Through his window, he could see the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth. Home seemed very far away. He thought about his friend Lee Hyunwoo, who had joined the Space Marines. Hyunwoo was strong and brave. He would know what to do here, but Tejo was just a kid who was good at puzzles and reading. What use was that among aliens who could tear metal with their bare hands? Tomorrow the tests would begin, and Tejo was already sure he would fail. The first day of testing had been a disaster for Tejo. In the strength test, he could barely lift weights that alien children handled easily. In the speed trials, he came in dead last among all species, even in the intelligence tests, which he thought humans might do well in. The crystal beings and insect creatures solved problems faster than him. Tejo sat alone in the cafeteria, picking at his strange alien food. Other species had formed groups with their own kind, but there were only 3 humans on the station. Somin was busy with diplomatic meetings, and the third human was a scientist named Dr. Kim, who kept to himself. The reptilian aliens at the next table were still making jokes about humans. "I heard the small one took 30 minutes to solve a puzzle my child could do in 5, one said. "Maybe they sent their weakest specimens by mistake," another replied. Tejo tried to ignore them, but their words stung. Maybe they were right. Maybe humans really were too weak for this alliance. Suddenly, all conversation in the cafeteria stopped. The lights flickered, and Tejo felt a strange vibration through the floor. Emergency alarms began to sound, but they were different from the usual station alarms. These were deeper, more urgent. All around him, aliens were standing up and looking nervous. The reptilian aliens who had been so confident just moments before now looked worried. The crystal beings were flashing different colors rapidly, which Taeho had learned meant they were afraid. "What's happening?" Taeho asked the cat-like alien named Nira, who sat at a nearby table. She had been one of the few aliens who was not cruel to him. "Unscheduled arrival," Nira whispered. "Someone is approaching the station without permission. The sensors say it's a single ship, but—" She paused and looked scared. "But the energy readings are enormous." Station security announcements echoed through the halls. "All students report to designated safe areas. This is not a drill. Repeat, all students to safe areas immediately." But instead of moving to safety, many aliens were pressing against the windows to see what was coming. Taeho followed them. Through the massive viewing windows, he could see a ship approaching the station. The ship was unlike anything Taeho had ever seen. It was black as space itself and seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. It moved with a strange, predatory grace. The ship had no sharp edges or clean lines like other vessels. Instead, it looked organic, like it had been grown rather than built. "By the void," whispered one of the reptilian aliens. "That's a hunter ship." The name sent a wave of fear through the crowd. Aliens who had been brave and confident just hours before were now backing away from the windows. Some were actually shaking. "What's a hunter ship?" Taeho asked. Nira's fur was standing on end. "The hunters are the oldest predator species in the galaxy. They're from a world where everything tries to kill everything else. They're apex predators." "But they're just another alien species, right?" Taeho said. An insect-like alien nearby heard him and made a chittering sound of disbelief. "Just another species? Boy, the hunters are death itself walking on two legs. They can track anything across entire star systems. They can survive in environments that would kill most species instantly. And when they hunt something, they never give up. Never." The ship docked with the station with barely a sound. Through the viewing window, Taeho could see the airlock connecting. Station security forces were gathering near the docking bay, but they kept their distance. "Why is everyone so scared?" Taeho asked. "If they're dangerous, why don't the security forces stop them?" The reptilian alien who had been mocking humans earlier turned to look at Taeho. For the first time, there was no mockery in his eyes, only fear. "Because you don't stop a hunter. You hope they're not hunting you." Minutes passed. The corridors were unusually quiet. Even the station's normal background noise seemed muted. Then, heavy footsteps echoed through the halls. They were slow, deliberate, and somehow different from the footsteps of any other alien Taeho had heard. The footsteps grew closer. Aliens in the viewing area began to back away from the corridor entrance. Some actually left the area entirely. Taeho found himself moving forward instead of backward. Something about those footsteps was fascinating to him. The hunter appeared in the corridor entrance. Taeho had seen many impressive aliens over the past few days, but nothing had prepared him for this. The hunter stood nearly 8 feet tall. But unlike the reptilian aliens who were tall and thin, this creature was built like a living weapon. Its body was covered in natural armor plating that looked like black metal. Its arms were long and muscular, ending in hands that had retractable claws. But it was the hunter's face that made Taeho's breath catch. It had 4 eyes arranged in pairs, allowing it to see in multiple directions at once. Its mouth was filled, with teeth designed for tearing. Yet there was intelligence in those eyes. Ancient, patient intelligence. The hunter moved through the corridor like liquid death. Every step was perfectly placed. Its head moved constantly, scanning everything around it. Taeho realized the creature was not just walking. It was hunting. Always hunting. The aliens around Taeho were frozen in place. Some were trembling. The mighty reptilian aliens who had dominated the tests looked like frightened children next to this apex predator. The hunter's multiple eyes swept across the crowd and stopped on Taeho. For a moment that felt like hours. Predator and prey locked. gazes. Tejo felt like he was being examined, studied, measured. Then the hunter's gaze moved on, and Tejo could breathe again. Station Director Vex-Tar appeared with a group of high-ranking officials. Even Vex-Tar, who had seemed so confident and powerful, approached the hunter with obvious caution. "Great hunter," Vex-Tar said, his voice carefully respectful. "We were not expecting your arrival. How may we serve you?" The hunter's voice was like gravel grinding against stone. "Escaped prey. Dangerous. Trail leads here." "What kind of prey?" Vex-Tar asked. "Void stalker. From the prison worlds. It feeds on terror and grows stronger with each kill." The hunter's 4 eyes continued to scan the crowd as it spoke. "It will try to hide among many life forms. Blend in. Wait." A chill ran through the crowd. A void stalker loose on the station meant everyone was in danger. "We will cooperate fully," Vex-Tar said quickly. "What do you need from us?" "Silent hunt. No alarms. No panic. Prey feeds on fear." The hunter paused and looked around the room again. "Some here may not survive. This is acceptable." The casual way the hunter spoke about deaths made several aliens gasp. But Tejo found himself studying the creature's hunting methods. The way it moved, the way it observed, the way it processed information. There was something almost familiar about it, though he could not understand why. The hunter began to move through the station, and the crowds parted before it like water. Tejo watched until the creature disappeared around a corner. Even then, he could hear those deliberate footsteps echoing through the halls. "Now you see," Nira whispered beside him, "why we fear the hunters. They are what we all used to be, before we became civilized. They are what we gave up to build societies and technology." That night, Tejo lay in his bed listening to the sounds of the station. Somewhere in these corridors, a hunter was tracking deadly prey, and somehow, that thought did not frighten him as much as it should have. Instead, he found himself wondering what it would be like to hunt with such purpose and skill. 3 days had passed since the hunter's arrival. The Void Stalker was still loose somewhere on the station. Students whispered about strange sounds in the night and shadows that moved when no one was there. 2 aliens from different species had disappeared without a trace. The regular testing program continued, but everyone was nervous. Tejo had failed every physical test so far. His scores were the lowest of any species on the station. The other aliens no longer bothered to mock him. They just ignored him completely. Director Vex-Tar called an emergency assembly in the main hall. All the alien students gathered, talking quietly among themselves. Tejo sat alone in the back where he always sat. "The situation has become serious," Vex-Tar announced. "We are moving the final survival test ahead of schedule. Tomorrow, you will be taken to the planet Kepler-7. It is a world designed to test every aspect of your abilities." A wave of excited chatter swept through the crowd. This was the test everyone had been preparing for. "You will be dropped in teams on different parts of the planet," Vex-Tar continued. "Each team must survive for 72 hours while completing various objectives. This test will determine which species earn full membership in the Galactic Alliance." Tejo's stomach sank. A survival test on an alien planet. He could barely handle the tests in the safety of the station. "The planet has been seeded with dangerous predators and environmental hazards," Vex-Tar added. "Emergency extraction will be available, but using it means automatic failure for your entire species." That night, Tejo packed his small bag with the few supplies they were allowed to bring. So Min found him in his room. "You don't have to do this," she said gently. "I can request that you be excluded from the test." "No," Tejo replied. "I have to try. If I don't, they'll say humans are too weak even to attempt the test." So Min looked worried. "Tejo, this isn't about proving anything to them. It's about staying alive," Maybe, Tejo said. But what if I can do this? What if there's something about being human that we don't know yet? The next morning, transport ships carried the students to Kepler-7. Through the ship's windows, Tejo could see a world of purple forests and orange skies. Strange clouds moved in patterns that seemed almost alive. The planet looked beautiful from space, but Tejo knew looks could be deceiving. They were divided into mixed teams of different species. Tejo found himself with two reptilian aliens, named Krex and Vorth, an insect creature called Click, and Nira, the cat-like alien who had been kind to him. "Try not to die immediately," Krex said to Tejo as their drop pod prepared to launch. "We cannot carry dead weight." The drop was terrifying. Their pod screamed through the planet's atmosphere and crashed into a clearing in the purple forest. When the door opened, Tejo was hit by air that smelled like flowers and decay at the same time. The other teams were dropped miles away. Each team had a different set of objectives to complete while surviving the planet's dangers. Tejo's team needed to find 3 hidden markers scattered across 50 miles of wilderness. Krex immediately took charge. "Click, you scout ahead with your wings. Vorth, you watch our rear. Nira, use your senses to detect predators. The human—" He looked at Tejo with disgust. "Try not to get in the way." They began walking through the alien forest. The trees were unlike anything on Earth. Their purple bark seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Strange fruits hung from branches that moved without any wind. In the distance, Tejo could hear sounds that might have been animals, or might have been something else entirely. After 2 hours of walking, Click returned from scouting with bad news. Large predator tracks ahead. Fresh. Very fresh. Krex studied the tracks. They were huge, with claw marks that cut deep into the alien soil. "Apex predator," he decided. "We go around." "That will add 10 miles to our route," Vorth protested. "Better than being eaten," Krex replied. But going around was not simple. The forest grew thicker, and strange thorned vines blocked their path. The air grew warmer and harder to breathe. After 4 more hours, they were lost. "The scanner is not working properly," Click reported. "Something on this planet interferes with technology." As night fell, the forest became a different place. Bioluminescent plants began to glow with eerie light. Sounds echoed through the trees that made everyone nervous. In the distance, they could hear roars from creatures they could not see. They made camp in a small clearing. Krex and Vorth took first watch while the others tried to sleep. But Tejo could not sleep. Something felt wrong about their location. He quietly got up and walked to the edge of the clearing. The ground here was softer than elsewhere. Too soft. And there was a smell in the air that reminded him of something from Earth. Something dangerous. "This is not a natural clearing," Tejo whispered to himself. He knelt down and examined the soft earth more carefully. There were no rocks, no tree, roots, nothing hard at all. The soil had an oily texture that stuck to his fingers. Suddenly, Tejo understood. This was not a clearing. It was a feeding ground. Something had been bringing prey here for a long time. The soft soil was made from years of decomposed remains. Just then, he heard a sound from the forest. Something large was moving through the trees, heading straight for their camp. "Everyone up!" Tejo shouted. "We need to move now." "Quiet, human," Krex hissed. "You will attract predators." "The predator is already coming," Tejo insisted. "This is its feeding ground. We're camping in its dinner table." The sound grew closer. Trees began to shake as something massive pushed through them. Krex finally heard it too, and his scales went pale. "Move!" Krex ordered. "Everyone, move!" They grabbed their packs and ran into the forest. Behind them, something enormous crashed into their campsite. Tejo did not look back, but he heard sounds of destruction that made his blood freeze. They ran until their lungs burned, then kept running. Finally, they stopped in a rocky area where the ground was hard and solid. "How did you know?" Nira asked, Tejo between gasps for breath. "The soil," Tejo explained. "Too soft. Wrong smell. On Earth, predators often use feeding grounds like that." Krex looked at Tejo with something that might have been respect. "Your world has such places?" "Many," Tejo replied. "Humans learned to recognize them long ago. Had to, or we would not have survived." They found a better camping spot on high ground with good visibility. This time, when Tejo suggested changes to their watch rotation and camp setup, the others listened. As dawn approached, Tejo realized something had changed. He was no longer the weak human they had to protect. He was becoming the one who kept them alive. And somewhere in the back of his mind, he remembered the hunter's 4 eyes studying him in the corridor. Those ancient, patient eyes that seemed to see something others missed. The second day on Kepler 7 brought new challenges. Tejo's team had found the first marker, but 2 more remained hidden somewhere in the vast alien wilderness. The other aliens were starting to trust his judgment, but Tejo could see they were all getting tired. Click's wings were damaged from flying through the thick forest canopy. Vorth had cut his arm on thorned vines, and the wound was not healing well in the alien environment. Even Krex, the strongest of them, was moving slower than before. "Water," Nira said weakly. "We need to find water soon." Their supplies were running low. The planet's strange atmosphere made them sweat more than normal, and the emergency water tablets could only do so much. Tejo studied the landscape around them. The purple forest stretched in all directions, but he noticed something the others had missed. In one direction, the trees grew differently. They were taller and their leaves were a deeper color. "That way," Tejo pointed. "Trees grow better near water sources." "How can you know this?" Krex asked. "This is an alien world." "Plants are plants," Tejo replied. "They all need water to grow big and healthy." They followed Tejo's lead and found a stream within an hour. The water was clean and sweet. Everyone drank deeply and refilled their containers. "The human was right again," Click said quietly to Nira. "How does he know these things?" Tejo was kneeling by the stream, studying tracks in the mud. There were many different prints, but one set made him frown. The tracks were huge and showed claws, but something about them was strange. "These tracks are wrong," Tejo said. "Wrong how?" Vorth asked. "Look at the spacing. Look at how deep they are." Tejo pointed to the marks. "This creature walks on 2 legs, not 4, and it's heavy, but the back feet dig deeper than the front ones. That means it carries weight forward." "So," Krex said, "so it hunts like humans used to hunt. Upright, using tools. This is not just an animal. This is an intelligent predator." The team looked around nervously. An intelligent predator was much more dangerous than a simple beast. "We should leave," Nira said. But Tejo was still studying the tracks. "No. Look at the age of these marks. Some are old, some are fresh. This creature has been using this water source for days. It knows other animals come here to drink. It's hunting here," Krex realized. "Yes, but more than that." Tejo followed the tracks away from the stream. "It's not just waiting for prey to come to water, it's herding them here." Tejo showed them other tracks leading to the stream from different directions. "See? It drives prey toward this spot. Then it waits." "How do you know all this?" Vorth demanded. "Because it's what humans would do," Tejo replied simply. "When we could not run as fast as other animals, we learned to think faster. We learned to plan, to trap, to hunt smart instead of hunt strong." The realization hit the team like a cold wind. This creature hunted like humans hunted. "We need to find it before it finds us," Tejo said. "Are you insane?" Krex hissed. "We should run." "Running won't work," Tejo explained patiently. "It knows this territory better than we do. It can track us easily. Our only chance is to understand it first. Against all common sense, the team followed Tae-ho as he tracked the creature. He moved carefully, reading signs in the alien soil that the others could not see. Broken branches here, disturbed leaves there, the faint scent of something that did not belong. There, Tae-ho whispered, pointing to a rocky hill ahead. It lives up there. They climbed carefully, using the rocks for cover. Near the top, they found the creature's lair. It was a cave, but the entrance had been modified. Rocks had been arranged to create barriers and hiding spots. Bones were scattered around in specific patterns. "It's decorating," Nira whispered in amazement. "Like an intelligent being." "Not decorating," Tae-ho corrected. "Planning. Those bones mark sight lines. Those rocks create choke points. This whole area is designed for hunting." From their hiding spot, they watched the cave entrance. Hours passed. Then, as the sun began to set, the creature emerged. It stood 9 feet tall on 2 powerful legs. Its body was covered in thick hide marked with natural camouflage patterns. Its arms were long and muscular, ending in hands that could grip tools. Most striking were its eyes. They were forward-facing like a predator's, but filled with unmistakable intelligence. "By the void," Krex breathed. "It's like a giant version of the humans." The creature moved with purpose and patience. It carried a spear made from sharpened bone and metal scavenged from crashed ships. It checked several hidden traps around its territory, resetting some and moving others. Tae-ho watched in fascination. This was how humans had hunted for thousands of years before technology changed everything. The patience, the planning, the use of tools and terrain. It was like looking into humanity's past. But then something unexpected happened. The creature stopped and looked directly at their hiding spot. "It knows we're here," Tae-ho whispered. The creature made a sound that might have been communication. It pointed at their hiding spot, then at itself, then made a gesture that clearly meant, "Come out." "It wants to talk," Tae-ho realized. "Don't be stupid," Krex said. "It wants to eat us." But Tae-ho was already standing up. "No, if it wanted to kill us, we would already be dead. It's been watching us for hours. It could have attacked any time." "Tae-ho, don't," Nira called. But Tae-ho walked out from behind the rocks with his hands visible and empty. The creature watched him approach. When Tae-ho was about 20 feet away, the creature made another gesture. This one meant stop. For a long moment, human and alien predator studied each other. Then the creature did something that shocked everyone. It set down its spear and made the same gesture Tae-ho had made. Hands visible and empty. It was showing respect. Predator to predator. The creature spoke in a voice like grinding stone. But somehow, Tae-ho understood the meaning, if not the words. "You hunt like the old ones. You think like the deep hunters." "Yes," Tae-ho replied, not knowing if the creature understood him. "We learn to survive by thinking." The creature nodded slowly. Then it picked up its spear and pointed toward the forest. In the distance, something roared. Something much larger and more dangerous than either of them. "Greater hunter comes," the creature seemed to say. "We hunt together or we die apart." Tae-ho looked back at his team, then at the alien predator. 2 intelligent hunters from different worlds facing a common threat. Together, Tae-ho agreed. And in that moment, something incredible happened. Hidden sensors throughout the planet, monitoring the survival test, recorded the exchange. But one sensor was different from the others. It belonged to the hunter who had arrived at the station days before. From his ship in orbit, the hunter watched. The small human make alliance with an apex predator. The hunter's 4 eyes studied the display with ancient interest. "Interesting," the hunter said in his grinding voice. "Very interesting indeed." The greater hunter that threatened them turned out to be a massive creature the size of a building. It had 6 legs, armor-like skin, and jaws that could crush metal. But working together, Tae-ho and the alien predator managed to drive it away, using carefully placed traps and coordinated attacks. Tae-ho's alien teammates watched in amazement as he and the creature worked as a team. They moved without speaking, each understanding what the other would do next. When the great beast finally retreated into the deep forest, the alien predator nodded once to Tae-ho and disappeared back to its lair. "How did you do that?" Nira asked, in wonder. "We understood each other," Tae-ho replied. "We both hunt the same way. Patient, smart, using what we have instead of wishing for what we don't have." The team found their remaining markers and completed their mission. When the extraction ships arrived, Tae-ho's team was one of only 3 that had succeeded without calling for emergency rescue. Most of the other teams had failed within the first day. Back on the station, news of Tae-ho's success spread quickly. The other aliens looked at him differently now, not with mockery, but with confusion. How had the weakest student succeeded where stronger ones had failed? Director Vextar called Tae-ho to his office. "Explain to me what happened on that planet," he demanded. Tae-ho told him about tracking the predator, forming an alliance, and working together to survive. Vextar listened with growing disbelief. "You're telling me you befriended an apex predator?" Vextar said. "I didn't befriend it," Tae-ho corrected. "I understood it, and it understood me. We were both hunters trying to survive." "Impossible. Humans are not hunters. You're small, weak, slow." "On the outside, yes," Tae-ho agreed. "But hunting isn't just about being big and strong. It's about being smart. It's about never giving up. It's about adapting to any situation." Vextar dismissed him, but Tae-ho could see the reptilian was troubled by something. That evening, Tae-ho was walking through the quiet corridors when he heard familiar footsteps behind him. Heavy, deliberate, patient. He turned around and found himself face to face with the hunter. The massive creature filled the corridor completely. Its 4 eyes studied Tae-ho with ancient intelligence. Up close, Tae-ho could see scars covering the hunter's natural armor. Each scar told a story of battles fought and won. "You," the hunter said in its grinding voice. "Small human. You hunt." It was not a question. "Yes," Tae-ho replied. "I hunt." "Show me." The hunter turned and began walking down the corridor. Tae-ho followed, not knowing what else to do. They walked through parts of the station Tae-ho had never seen before. Maintenance areas, storage bays, places where few beings ever went. Finally, they stopped in a large, empty cargo bay. The hunter moved to the center of the room and crouched down. It placed one clawed hand on the metal floor and closed its eyes. "The prey I seek," the hunter said. "Void Stalker. It was here. Recently. Can you find its trail?" Tae-ho looked around. The empty room. To most beings, there would be nothing to see. Just an empty metal space. But Tae-ho had learned to look beyond the obvious. He knelt down near where the hunter had touched the floor. The metal was slightly warmer in some spots than others. Something had been here that generated heat differently than normal life forms. "Here," Tae-ho said, pointing to a section of floor. "It stayed here for a while, long enough to warm the metal." The hunter's eyes opened and focused on Tae-ho with new interest. Tae-ho continued studying the room. There were scratches on the walls that most would think were normal wear. But the pattern was wrong, too deliberate. "It climbed the walls," Tae-ho said, looking for vents or passages, trying to find a way to move through the station without being seen. "Continue," the hunter commanded. Tae-ho followed the scratch marks to a ventilation grate. The screws holding it in place were slightly loose. "It got into the air system here, but—" He paused and examined the grate more carefully. Some of the scratches went in both directions. It went in, but then came back out. Something made it change its mind. What? The hunter asked. Tejo thought about what he knew of void stalkers. They fed on fear and terror. The air vents would carry them anywhere in the station, but they would also carry something else. Scent, Tejo realized. Your scent was in the air system. It smelled you and knew you were hunting it, so it stayed in areas where it could escape, quickly if needed. The hunter stood up slowly. Its 4 eyes never left Tejo's face. You track like my people tracked before we had machines, the hunter said. You read signs that others miss. You think like prey thinks, so you know where prey goes. My people had to learn these things, Tejo explained. We were not the biggest or strongest on our world. We had to be smart to survive. Show me more, the hunter ordered. For the next hour, the hunter led Tejo through the station, testing his tracking abilities. Each time, Tejo found signs that others had missed. Scratches, scents, disturbed dust, variations in temperature. The invisible trail that the Void Stalker had left behind. Finally, they stopped in another corridor. The hunter faced Tejo directly. Your species, the hunter said slowly. They are not weak. They are something else. Something my people remember from the ancient times. What do you mean? Tejo asked. Long ago, before my people had technology, we hunted across worlds with nothing but our minds and will. We never stopped. We never gave up. We adapted to any world, any prey, any challenge. The hunter paused. Then we became civilized. We forgot the old ways. The hunter's clawed hand reached out and touched Tejo's shoulder gently. You have not forgotten. Your people still carry the deep hunt inside them. You are what we used to be. I don't understand, Tejo said. In the old tongue of my people there is a word. Kethvar. It means one who hunts with the mind of the void. A hunter who needs no claws because they have patience. No armor because they have cunning. No speed because they never stop. The hunter's voice carried a tone Tejo had never heard before. Respect. You are Kethvar, small human. You are what the galaxy forgot hunters could be. Then the hunter did something that no one had ever seen before. It lowered its massive head. In a gesture of acknowledgement, in the hunter's culture, this was how equals greeted each other. Brother Hunter, the hunter said formally. I name you Brother Hunter of the Deep Void. Tejo felt something change inside him, not just recognition from another being, but understanding of what he truly was, what humans truly were. They were not failed warriors. They were successful hunters, the best kind of hunters, the kind that never gave up. News of the hunter's recognition spread through the station like wildfire. Within hours, every alien on the station knew that the legendary predator had called a human brother hunter. The same aliens who had mocked Tejo now whispered about him in the corridors. Director Vextar called an emergency council meeting. The most important leaders from every species gathered in the main assembly hall. Tejo was ordered to attend, along with Somin and the other human representatives. The hall was packed. Aliens who had ignored humans before now stared at them, with new eyes. Some looked curious, others looked afraid. Vextar stood at the center of the hall, his green scales darker than usual. We are here to discuss a development that challenges everything we thought we knew about the human species. The hunter entered the hall, and the usual wave of fear rippled through the crowd. But this time, the hunter was not alone. Tejo walked beside him, looking small next to the massive predator, but somehow no longer looking weak. Great Hunter, Vextar said carefully. Please explain to the council what happened in your evaluation of this human. The hunter's 4 eyes swept across the assembly. When it spoke, its grinding voice carried to every corner of the hall. You see weak creatures because you look with weak eyes, the hunter began. You measure strength by muscle, speed by how fast legs move, Intelligence by how quickly minds solve puzzles. The hunter placed one clawed hand on Tae-Ho's shoulder. This is not how predators measure each other. True hunters measure different things: patience, persistence, the ability to adapt, the will to never surrender. A murmur ran through the crowd. These were not qualities most aliens associated with strength. "I have hunted across 1,000 worlds," the hunter continued. "I have tracked prey through environments that would kill most of you in minutes. I thought I knew what it meant to be an apex predator." The hunter paused and looked directly at Tae-Ho. "This small human showed me I was wrong. He does not hunt with claws or fangs. He hunts with something more dangerous. He hunts with the patience of the void itself." Director Vextar looked confused. "But Hunter, humans failed almost every physical test we gave them." "Because your tests measure the wrong things," the hunter replied sharply. "You test who can lift the most weight today, but which is more dangerous? The creature that can lift heavy things, or the creature that will chase you across an entire galaxy and never stop?" The hunter gestured to the assembly. "You test who can run fastest for a short distance. But which should you fear more? The creature that runs fast but gets tired, or the creature that runs slow but never gets tired and never gives up?" Silence fell over the hall. Aliens who had considered themselves superior warriors began to understand what the hunter was saying. "Humans are persistence predators," the hunter explained. On their world, they hunted creatures bigger and stronger than themselves by simply refusing to quit. They would chase prey for days, weeks if necessary. The prey would run until exhausted, and then the humans would catch them. Tae-Ho stepped forward. His voice was quiet, but in the silent hall, everyone could hear him. "My people survived ice, ages by adapting. We lived in deserts by learning patience. We crossed oceans by refusing to give up. We spread across our entire world not because we were strong, but because we never stopped trying." The hunter nodded approvingly. "And now they come to the stars with the same spirit, small in body but infinite in determination." A reptilian council member stood up. "But what does this mean for the Alliance? How does patience help in space combat or diplomacy?" The hunter's laugh was like grinding metal. "You still do not understand. Watch." The hunter gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the hall. It showed the tracking exercise Tae-Ho had completed, following the Void Stalker's trail through the station. 12 security teams searched for this creature. For days, the hunter said. They found nothing. The human found its trail in minutes. The display changed to show recordings from the survival test on Kepler-7. Your strongest teams called for rescue within hours. The human team completed the mission and formed an alliance with an apex predator. The assembly watched in amazement. As the recordings showed Tae-Ho working with the alien creature, 2 intelligent hunters cooperating instead of competing. "This is what you have been missing," the hunter said. "You see humans as weak because they do not fight like you fight. But they do something more dangerous than fighting. They understand. They adapt. They persist." So-Min stood up from the human section. "If I may address the council," she said formally. Vexatar nodded for her to continue. "Humans do not wish to dominate the galaxy," So-Min said. "We want to learn from you, work with you, explore alongside you. We offer our skills not as conquerors, but as partners." "What skills?" demanded an insect-like council member. "What can you offer us?" Tae-Ho answered. "We can find things others miss. We can solve problems others give up on. We can adapt to places others cannot survive. And we never stop trying." The hunter stepped forward again. "In my language, we have an old saying. The stone that will not break is more dangerous than the sword that cuts deep. Humans are that stone. They will chase their goals across time itself if necessary," the hunter continued. "They will adapt to any challenge you give them. They will find solutions you never thought of. and they will never, ever give up. The hunter looked around the assembly with all four eyes. You asked what humans can offer the Alliance. I will tell you. They can teach you to remember what it means to truly hunt among the stars, not with weapons or strength, but with the most dangerous weapon of all, an unbreakable will. Director Vexatar looked stunned. You are saying humans should be admitted to the Alliance? I am saying more than that, the hunter replied. I am saying you need them more than they need you. They will explore parts of the galaxy you think are impossible. They will solve problems you think cannot be solved. They will find ways to survive where you think no life can exist. The hunter placed both hands on Tejo's shoulders in a gesture of respect. And they will do it all with the patience of the void and the persistence of the eternal hunt. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in galactic history, a species was admitted to the Alliance not for their strength or technology, but for their spirit. As the assembly dispersed, Tejo found himself surrounded by aliens who wanted to learn more about human persistence and adaptability. The mockery was gone, replaced by respect and curiosity. Later, as Tejo stood looking out at the stars through the station's main viewing window, the hunter joined him. Your people will change the galaxy, the hunter said quietly, not by conquering it, but by showing it new ways to explore and survive. We're still learning too, Tejo replied. Learning that being different doesn't mean being weak, the hunter nodded. The greatest hunters are always learning. That is what makes them dangerous. Together, human and hunter watched the stars. Two apex predators from different worlds, united by the ancient understanding that the greatest strength is the strength that never gives up.